Welcome to Graeme Games. My name's Graeme. This is a game.
Is Meat Boy. This is Bandage Girl. And this, well, this is Nugget. Their little bundle of joy. Aww. This is Dr. Fetus. He's not a real doctor. Wow. One day, while our heroes were enjoying life, Dr. Fetus attacked them and kidnapped Nugget. When our heroes came to and couldn't find Nugget, they knew what they had to do.
This is Super Meat Boy Forever, the long awaited follow-up to Super Meat Boy. I'm kind of curious. I thought this game was brand new. Turns out it's been out for a year over on Epic, but it's brand new to Steam. I am so curious to see what this game is like without Ed McMillan's influence and godlike design philosophies and mentality. Like, the game should still have the core identity. Obviously, as an auto runner, it's automatically going to be dramatically different. And I'm just kind of curious if it holds up at all, really, with that, with those major changes. Some of the animations and stuff are neat. I think the general design of things feels familiar. It's the tiniest bit too clean in a way that you can tell is distinctly separate from Ed McMillan, but I think it like moves it forward in a positive direction in a way that I'm familiar with, you know, so I'm okay with the updated graphics and things, even if it's not quite as poppy as Ed's own materials. Look at them having their sweet, delicious little picnic in picnic? Am I 2 seconds in this video and I already can't say just a basic regular word? That was so stealthy. Immediately spring into action. Meat Boy's fists, Band-Aid Girl's kicks, that's going to be a distinguishing thing, I guess. I like the bouncy environments and the trees with blinking eyes and things. I think I'm always going to love that. Hello World. It's always a funny thing to title your very first level. I didn't expect there to be so many different characters to play as. That'll be fun to see who gets to like cameo in this game. The pixel precision of the original game is like so crucial to the experience, you know? I don't really know how this is gonna feel without that. And I don't know what button that is. What button do you want me to press here? D-pad down is an insane, in my mind, insane choice for punching, but I guess maybe once things start chaining together, it's like dipping down. There we go. It makes slightly more sense in that context. Like, a crucial part of this game was the handcrafted levels that were so unbelievably precise and meticulous and required like this pixel level precision, and that's what created like the endless challenge for people. And suddenly taking that into an auto runner, yeah, the game is polished, but like, is it gonna hold up? The music is silly, like really folksy. Wasn't expecting that. Come on, man. The multi-replay, I'm very glad that they carried that along. We don't need to relive these failures by any mean. Let's just ignore that. Pretend I'm not abysmal. I really gotta like clean this controller. The A button is so sticky. Am I insane? What is that whistling coming from? That's like a very familiar thing to me. I've definitely heard that before. Controller issues back on track. That's I guess there is still like the sort of precision that you would expect, that you have to push it to like the absolute tiniest, furthest possible way. Like you can't flirt with it. There's not a lot of wiggle room, I guess is a better way to say that. But like, there we go. I kind of still don't think it really compares to the experience of playing the game as it originally was. But I'm gonna keep an open mind. I'm gonna see the more I play around with this, try and keep the challenge raw and real and fresh. That was some pretty, that was a pretty good little stretch I had there. I'm feeling happy with that. Oh god, what do I do once I get going the wrong direction? I think you're kind of screwed at that point. Keep that in mind, but also don't know what I can do. Ooh, I have a theory. It's not chucking myself into a saw blade repeatedly. That was my second theory. New working theory now. I have to let myself slide down so I can get a specific wall jump in. Like, hit that there. Now I'm back on track. That kind of works. But, like, not in the most intuitive way. Oh, come on, that last little, that jumped into the trick. There you go, buddy. I'm just gonna chuck you into a pit anyways. It's a tough thing to give up the feeling of control in this game. Like, I would understand this if we wanted to completely change this and turn it into like a mobile game experience, where that's the only way you can play things, is to really lean into like only having like a 2-button level of control, but completely taking away that fidelity and like that instantaneous quick reflex reaction makes this a fundamentally different game. And I have to wonder if that's honestly like what drove Macmillan away from continuing on with this project. I don't know the full deets. Oh, I know what I know that whistle from. It's in The Binding of Isaac. Or at least like a version of it is. There, Larry or one of the spitting type characters that just like hucks out loogies at you does like the whistle to alert you that that's what they're about to do. They tried to make this continuous kinetic experience of the auto running with like the non-stop motion, and instead they created this thing that I don't fully understand, where the game somehow manages to feel slower than the original, and that confuses the hell out of me. Oh, there's stopping points, so it's an infinite runner up until the points where it would have broken the game's design to have you infinitely running, at which point the game stops and nothing matters and you can just sit and be patient and take your time. So it's an infinite runner, except for the many, many times where you will stop running because the levels would have been insanely limited and repetitive if they took that out, at which point the entire experience is kind of shot and ruined anyways. And now I destroyed the destroyable blocks and can't proceed the level and have to go kill myself. I know I went into this saying I'm gonna have like an open mind about it, because I understand it's a new type of control system. It's gonna take some like getting used to, but so far this gives me none of the feelings of Super Meat Boy. I'm basically not enjoying a single second of it. And so I went from planning to play this game for a good hour to like currently at this point 10 minutes in, like waiting for it to end. Like this is fucking stupid. A little jump to get going in the right direction, sure, why not? Except for alright, I'm finally like cleared that. But it didn't feel like a challenge. It felt like an annoyance, much more than anything else. It's like definitely the main way I would classify what I just went through. There, it eventually made it through. My sense of accomplishment is like very, very minimal. I'll give the level a replay to see. I struggled with that opening bit quite a bit. There was like a checkpoint there. That's another thing, is that because the way the levels are stitched together, they can't really predict when a given level is going to be harder. These levels must be preset. These early levels that you play through must be preset. But like, I don't remember if the original game had checkpoints. This game almost has to, because you have so little control over the character that it's still luck-based, but nowhere near to the extent that the original Super Meat Boy was. So now you can see me trying to figure out how these stupid bumpers work. I figured it out precisely like once. Once I figured it out, I made it through, but it was kind of chaos and didn't go anywhere near smoothly. And then from there, the remainder of the level, we only had the one attempt to review anyways. So here I have to go use this bumper to kick back forward. Alright, I can try and get on board and try to lean into the new mechanics it's introducing. Those saws appearing where they did was like tight. That was close. I don't know remotely how I lived through any of that. So having lots of moving obstacles and stuff is cool, but it kind of seems like there's only one way to do a level. Like maybe a given level will have 2 paths or something like that to make it more a case of having the control to like test, guess, and check and hope that you manage to pull it off. So I think I needed a dash there. That added speed sure didn't help. But I would say one of the main appeals of Super Meat Boy was the fact that you could do the level however you wanted. There were obviously routes and methods that were better than others. But it really, really came down to you figuring out what was best for you. How much are you going to risk it? How hard are you going to push it? How fast do you think you can get away with being and still be successful? And now it's just kind of like, all right, well, this saw is going to move at this exact moment. When you're near, you have no choice but to go near. And now it's just a matter of figuring out the 1/2 second window that you actually have to pull off that jump. Oh, you didn't do it. Too bad. Try again. So maybe there are people out there who are going to accept and enjoy that the game is this dramatically different. It's kind of irritating to me. Irritating on one level as a Super Meat Boy game, because it's not what I want from a Super Meat Boy game. But on another level, that it's just kind of not fun because I'm not getting the reward of doing a really highly skilled maneuver that took a lot of attempts. It took a lot of attempts, but what it came down to is like getting half lucky with the timing. Just like, it's pixel precise in terms of timing, like millisecond precise instead of pixel precise platforming, and that's such a dramatically different skill set. And so it's really taking me out of it currently. Okay, he's got a saw open for me. That's neat, I suppose. I think the dead environments in the back look pretty cool. I'm into those. I'm pretty okay with the folksy music, like currently so far. I'm not totally against it. Like, I like having happy, silly moments and ideas like that mixed into a game that's just drenched in blood at all possible corners at every moment. I grew up on Newgrounds, pretty used to it, pretty much baked into my soul through creations like Happy Tree Friends or what have you. Oh, that one weirdly took a lot of extra tries. There's a warp zone up there. I could try and get my very first warp zone, see how well those have been integrated into this updated format. So I need to turn around, but I don't. There, nope. Oh, well, I think I missed my chance. And I would have to start the whole level over now that I missed that tiny little possibility. Yeah, I can't even go back and attempt it. So, too bad for, like, guessing and checking and trying to figure it out. I didn't know how to do it, so that's not very rewarding or engaging or fun. Because the game is playing itself so much, there's like a certain degree of repetitiveness. Like a really damaging one. Super Meat Boy is repetitive in the sense that it introduces different mechanics and platforms that you have to jump your way through and maneuver, and the difficulties that those introduce, and using them in different concepts and contexts, and forcing you to layer together the skills that you would have learned throughout. And that is very much just replaced with a version of repetitiveness that's just not very exciting. And like right now I have to lure this saw down, and because I didn't figure out how to do it right away, alright, let me spend 6 seconds running over to the left. Not 6 seconds, because time, you know what I'm saying though, like I have to wait for that to play out till I can make it back to where I need to be. Nope, I missed the jump. Alright, I guess I'll waste my time running all the way back over to here. I'll try it again this time. It's like they took like the fastest, craziest platforming game of all time, and then stripped it down to something that comparatively feels so insufferably slow. I really thought jumping up top there would matter. That was a waste. Managed to cut away the blocks. Pretty free and easy to get going when I needed to. Forgot to jump, because in my mind he was just going to continually keep running right, as he's been known to do in this format. So I just need to skip past that in both directions. Pretty harmless challenge until I screw it up anyways. Here we go. And jump. Jump. I won't make that same mistake twice. Not within one level. Potentially long term though. I could very easily come back to make that same mistake. I'm liking the colors of things. I think the art does look great. I think I'm pretty impressed with that. I think it's weird the way the saws are getting like splashed with blood as I get near them. That's such a confusing choice, because a huge part of that was like your own bloody failures painting the saws. Like so. Now we're all covered in 1,000 Meat Boy bodies from me failing that over and over. See, that I think there were like 2 ways that could have been done, and I kind of just eventually fluked out into one of them. I didn't even get to feel good about like achieving it. That's my max height jump. There we go. Why does that not work very consistently? Huge sections of levels that are kind of just no obstacles while it stitches together the next thing that you're supposed to encounter. That seems to be coming up semi-frequently. So it certainly isn't like a seamless integration of the different level components. Don't know why this isn't working consistently, because everything should be preset so that gets out of my way. Like, I definitely just jumped like that once and it worked. Never again has that worked. Maybe like twice or something there. I kind of got it. We got like a pacifier. I can attempt to collect a little extra something. Am I supposed to stop and camp here? Because I'm trying to go for like the fast version of it. Yeah, if I just jump and hurl myself into there, that does nothing. Doesn't work at all. If I try and get a little boosted jump out of there too, that doesn't really work. So in this thing that's all about infinite running and platforming, I have to stop and wait here until I can time it and like safely emerge. So we're like 5 levels in, something like that, and it feels to me as though the game is rejecting its own intended like design philosophies. That one I came closer to making it than I had at like any other, so there's potentially a way. If I jump almost If I jump within the first, like, second, there's, like, a chance. It almost works, but it sure doesn't. Here, I'm free and clear of that. I do want the pacifier. So I did it, but getting to the pacifier, not too hard. Getting away from everything after the fact, that's quite tough. There we go. But then I'm going the wrong direction. I was never a Super Meat Boy god. Platformers have like never really been my like #1 thing. I've never been phenomenal at like any of them essentially, so I can't pretend that some of the mistakes I'm encountering aren't coming down to like my own bad skills and bad instincts. There we go. Okay, I got going the right direction. Finally, eventually. That was pretty unforgiving. Don't understand how. Well, I'm never trying for the pacifier again because I don't know where to go. There is so little sense of accomplishment associated with spending that extra time to stop and get the pacifier that I'm just immediately abandoning that. This game has really soured me. I'm almost never this critical of games. I prefer to just sit down and play a game, enjoy it for what it does well, and just kind of like give almost anything a shot. I've played weird games on this channel. Weird things that I've put a lot of like hours into, most of the time one-offs, but like usually like I'll find something to appreciate about a game. I think the art looks okay, the music is okay, the art probably borders on good. Okay might be like selling it a little short, but it's certainly standing on Ed McMillan's shoulders in that regard as well. Yeah, rarely have I been so critical of a game. This one is like pretty upsetting. I kind of want to see the section where I attempted for the pacifier. Actually, a couple of these. The pacifier specifically, I'm curious about some of these rotating saw blade things, about sections where the next time it does that, where there's like 8 spinning saw blades, some of those I don't understand why they like didn't work. So I'm like playing back the tape to try and get my best possible look at why something worked. One thing I'm also noticing is that consistently I'll have whatever it is, 30 Meat Boys all running, and then I'll cruise through an enormous section of the level. I guess I had to hug the wall for that to ever work. But then like you cross whatever the one obstacle is, and then you're left with just the one Meat Boy who goes and does the entire rest of the level by himself, or a section of the level. See, it all spawns back in. Majority of them are gonna die right here, and then I'll be fine for like the rest. It happens every time. That's a bad example at the end there because it was the end of the level. But like each section of the level, you'll die 100 times to one obstacle, and then the rest of it after that fact is quite simple. Rather than starting with 200 Meat Boys and 10% of them keep dying off 1/10 of the way through the level until you finally pull it together right at the very end. No, it's like one singular thing that gets in the way, becomes jarring, becomes frustrating, then you cruise through the game for 20 seconds until you hit the next jarring and frustrating thing. I want to play long enough to clear one world here. I won't have the dark world unlocked, I don't think, until I complete something. I guess I'm also just randomly gonna pick a level and do something with Bandage Girl, to see if it's different. I don't really see how it could be, because that would really limit the way they could design the levels. You would have to change things pretty fundamentally to accommodate the fact that you're allowed to play with like 30 characters, 15 characters, I don't know, I didn't count. Yeah, it's the same game, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you play as, that's fine. I'm pretty sure that's how it worked in the original anyways. So let's give the boss a try, shall we? The Slugger might have been the boss of the original Super Meat Boy. I can't remember for sure. I think it might have been. So they might be just like directly lifting that. Either that or I'm familiar from trailers or previews or something. Yeah, the art and animation's good. The cutscene animation especially. It doesn't pop and bounce the way Ed's animations do, but it's really detailed. I'd say it looks really good. Big fan of Nugget. It's a funny name for their little offspring character. I like seeing what a weird half Meat Boy, half Bandage Girl character ends up looking like. I find that pretty funny. Oh, I'm supposed to be punching. Yes, of course. That actually doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know what I was doing. I wonder if I could be slipping down to the lower area there and trying to get hits off down below. I feel like I probably could, but it feels risky. Things are going like okay for me right now, so I don't really want to mess around with that too much. Oh, see now I have to. Here's where that's going to be important. What you gonna do about it? Oh, he is gonna come after me. Oh my god, getting hit once does you in. I'd say this is like a pretty good design for a boss battle. Like, given the mechanics of the game, the way it's set up and everything, this like makes sense to me. Difficulty for a first boss feels like rather appropriate. I'm into that. I think it's there's a need to kind of pause and allow yourself to wall slide a little bit while you wait to see where the thing is gonna chomp. So that's something I just kind of wasn't doing very well. Getting functionally more used to that already. Damn it. I think I'm quickly learning that auto runners aren't for me. I think I've played ones that I like, but this is making me doubt that. I'm suddenly doubting whether I've ever enjoyed an auto runner before, because being forced to behave and move in these ways becomes pretty irritating and limiting. I've basically died at the same spot every single time. I can clear this first half, the top two, with like essentially no problem. Once I get down here, I just gotta trust myself to let the character slide down the wall. I don't know if he chops next to himself. It might always chop along that wall, so maybe I should keep that in mind. I haven't figured it out yet. Honestly, the boss battle is the most interesting thing I've done so far in this game. But the limitations of it are so just glaringly apparent. This is probably the furthest I've made it. Yeah, that's what I was talking about, the punching next to himself there. So if I just keep the jumps going, okay, he's getting moving faster. I just don't know how to get to the other side of this now. There we go. See, he's opening it up for me. Thank you. Thanks, bud. Okay, this is promising. Oh god. Okay. Just like one more hit. Play it slow. Oh, okay, that was tough. The boss battle was pretty tough. I felt like I was getting better at it. That was like my favorite part of the game so far. I just kind of had to get into the groove of it. It was like relatively challenging, but it would have been better and more engaging and more exciting if I had actually been in control of it. You know, maybe that's just going to be a matter of personal preference with an auto runner. But without having the actual control of it, the feeling of accomplishing it is like just less. It's like you just played 300 little QuickTime events rather than playing an actual game where you're in full control of everything. I like this cute little squirrel. I feel real bad for him. Oh, dear God, please don't hold this against me. Oh, he's missing an arm and everything. That's hilarious. And I hope that like ties back in at a later point, like that becomes a recurring character or something like that. So there's 4 levels at least, plus there'll be the dark worlds and like the warp zones. They claim that they made like 6,000 level segments that then, stitched together and everything. So there should be a lot to play. Hey, it is just the 4 worlds, I think, and then it's a matter of doing them better in shorter time, unlocking characters in the warp zones, all that good stuff. And man, I don't want to be too sour grapes about this, but if you want an incredible platforming experience that'll challenge you in ways that'll drive you absolutely mad, but also give you the best feelings of success and triumph you've ever felt, go play the original Super Meat Boy. They put it on sale for $1 on a regular basis because it's kind of older at this point. If you want a sequel to Super Meat Boy, go and play Ed McMillan's The End Is Nigh. It's a different game, but it's different enough from Super Meat Boy to stand on its own in a way that is compelling and fresh and fun and new, rather than something that is different from Meat Boy with a Meat Boy skin. The End Is Nigh is a better sequel to Super Meat Boy than Super Meat Boy Forever is. I wouldn't recommend this game. Maybe you love auto runners, and even then, I would hesitate. I don't think I enjoyed this very much, and that's a bummer. I guess I'll just look forward to Mugenics. I'll stand by Ed and whatever he's got cooking up next. Thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry for being seemingly miserable through the whole video, but I just really didn't get into this one. See you again soon.